Welcome to Simple Robotics, the podcast, a podcast exploring the animation industry one episode at a time. I'm your host, Monique. You can find me on all social media platforms at Simply Robotics, SIMPLYROBOTIX. And don't forget to use the hashtag Simply Robotics Pod to join in on the conversation. Now, today's episode's a little bit extra special for me because not only am I doing the usual, what you all are used to, if you're listeners or, if you're listeners to the show, then you know what it is. I do movie reviews and I have my friends and peers on to talk about animation, cartoon related stuff. And when I don't have them, I do movie reviews for the most part. And then here and there, maybe a random blurb. So today is kind of going to be a little bit of a mashup. It's going to be a movie review and a random blurb about celebrating 2 years of Simply Robotics, the podcast. And by celebrating, I mean, this is the celebration. We are celebrating right now in this moment. So I'm just going to do the movie review first, and that will be about Netflix's Over the Moon. So their summary or whatever description for the movie is: fueled by memories of her mother, resourceful Feifei builds a rocket to the moon on a mission to prove the existence of a legendary moon goddess. IMDb pretty much has the same thing and says, in this animated musical, a girl builds a rocket ship and blasts off hoping to meet a mythical moon goddess. Now, this film came out, honestly, just about a couple weeks ago on October 23rd, 2020 in the United States. I don't think the release dates have been that much different between the US versus other countries in the world. The runtime, the film's about 100 minutes, which is kind of standard for the most part. The production companies are Netflix Animation, Pearl Studio, Dentsu Entertainment, Sony Pictures Imageworks, and Glen Keane Productions. And I believe that Glen Keane Productions was really probably doing some of the 2D animation stuff. So I have a bit of things I'm going to read to you all. I'll do my best to make sure it's not boring. No one has told me that I've sounded boring yet, so I'm going to, just keep doing what I'm doing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Over the Moon is the first international film to be directed by Glen Keane, who served as an animator for Walt Disney Animation Studios. And this is the second film produced by Pearl Studio after DreamWorks' 2019 animated film Abominable. Now, I was getting confused because I didn't see Abominable. I saw Smallfoot. And that was kind of a period in time where there was a couple of Yeti movies out of nowhere. So I did mean to see Abominable, but I find it interesting too because the main character in Over the Moon is the same race as the main character in Abominable, and they unfortunately do resemble each other a little bit. So knowing that they were made by the same studio makes a bit more sense. So it was directed by Glen Keane and co-directed by John Kahrs. Glen Keane, as I already said, is an American animator, author, and illustrator. He was the character animator at Walt Disney Animation Studios for feature films including The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Pocahontas, Tarzan, and also Tangled. So basically all of our faves. And he's just a huge deal in the animation industry. He is, just a huge deal. So he's the one that animated Little Mermaid, and basically, everyone that wants to be an animator studies his work deeply and tries to recreate his drawing style and his animation style, and he's just one of the people that you learn from. Moving forward, in 2017, Glen Keane directed Dare Basketball for all my fellas and basketball fans alike, which was an animated short based on Kobe Bryant's retirement poem, The Players' Tribune. That was in the Players' Tribune. So remember, Glen Keane and Kobe Bryant received Academy Award for Best Animated Short Film at this time. And someone triggered this memory. I completely forgot that Glen Keane and Kobe Bryant came to my job when that film, did it win already or was nominated? I was around that time. And it was like, I completely forgot that I saw Kobe Bryant in real life in my face. So anyways, on September 2017, Pearl Studio hired Audrey Wells to write the script for this film called Over the Moon, which was based on an idea by Janet Yang about a retelling of the classic Chinese myth. On February 6, 2018, Netflix acquired the distribution rights to the film, and Glen Keane was set to direct the film. However, unfortunately, Audrey Wells passed away in 2018, and this film was therefore also dedicated in their memory. While studios like Disney, Pixar have become known to use focus groups and brain trust or story trust to help with scripts, Glen Keane said that the creative decisions here aren't made by committee. So I think after this episode, I'm going to probably watch some interviews. Hopefully he's done some interviews about Over the Moon, just to learn a little bit more about what he said by that, because this was quoted. I got this off of Wiki, but I didn't follow up on the source to see, more. So also Wiki provided a bit more of an in-depth plot we're going to talk about a little bit. So it's a girl named Fei, and she's being told the legend of this moon goddess, and also Chinese community, forgive me if I pronounce any names wrong, and feel free to correct me. So the moon goddess, her name is Chang'e, and she took a potion for immortality, causing her to become a goddess and ascend to the moon without her lover Hou Yi. And she waits for him on the moon. In preparation for the annual moon festival, Fei and her family make mooncakes for the village. However, unfortunately, but also pretty standard for animated films, Fei-Fei's mother falls ill. She gives her daughter a bunny named Bungie right before passing away. So, the whole story happens, like a lot of things. And, the whole character arc, she grows up, she has challenges, she's overcoming the challenges, she's a new girl, all that sort of stuff. So part of what happens in the story is, you can say, Fei acquires a stepbrother, and I'm just, trying to avoid mispronouncing names. The moon goddess thanks Fei because, of course, they meet, and says that Fei and Fei's stepbrother, whose name is Chin, can go back home. And as they say bye to everyone that lives on the moon along with the moon goddess, Fei is now a bit more accepting of her life to be, as of what's about to happen. And then we see by the end of the film that Fei is now happy with her new family dynamic, despite the fact that, she would have never wanted it to be this way. So, I really didn't want to give any spoilers because it's a sweet movie, and I'm going to talk more about all that sweetness later. I will say, which is dope, is I don't want to keep dropping this in every episode that I do, but for the release of this film, they being my employer, send us almost like a over the moon care package, I will say, which was really dope. And I did take some pictures. I hope I should post them along with this episode. But anyways, they sent us this over the moon care package. So there was mooncakes in it, and there was boba tea. So if you live in a place that has an Asian community, and if you dabble in their food establishments, hopefully maybe you've seen this thing. I would hope that you've tried it, because I really like it, and I'm a picky person. And so boba tea is basically tea with tapioca balls in it, and you kind of use a wide straw so that you can get the tapioca balls. And most times, it's not, y'all could correct me, because again, I'm not Asian, but it seems like it's not that different from Thai iced tea, but I also have had some boba teas that didn't have any milk or anything in it, like a hibiscus or a passion fruit boba tea. That was a different experience. I think I like those better in the summer. I'm going off tangent. So anyways, the care package that I say that they made for us had mooncakes and boba tea, and it was just really sweet to coincide with the themes that are in the film. So just to keep it moving, the characters this is from Wiki. It's Fei, who's a 14-year-old Chinese girl who believes in this moon goddess ever since, her belief in the moon goddess, I should say, is intensified ever since the death of her mother. There's also Chin, who is Mrs. Zong's 8-year-old son. Now, he is so cute, so adorable. I can't remember his name now, but he reminds me a bit of that kid, just a little bit. Also, not going to say it. He reminds me a little bit of the kid from Up, in the fact that he's so cute, kind of bubbly personality, but he has way, way, way more energy than that kid from Up. He's as annoying as you would expect an 8-year-old to be, you know? And I also think that's what makes him so lovable. He's, like I said, high energy. He believes he has a superpower that allows him to run through walls. And it's an entertaining joke throughout the film. Now, the moon goddess, you know, Chang'e, yearns to be with her love Hou-Yi again. And by the end of the film, she ends up, I guess, spoiler, being a more likable person, and you're seeing that she herself actually has a heart. The film is a 3D animated film, as you would see if you just look it up right now through listening to this episode. It looks the most similar to Frozen and Tangled for me, but with like Asian characters. I think they did some great world building. Like, I can tell that there was a lot of sensitivity poured into the film, and not only to give viewers an authentic experience, but also I think there was great world building, and I can tell that there was a lot of sensitivity put into the film, not only to give viewers an authentic experience, but also to be respectful to people of that region as well as those that are part of that culture. I have to say that this was really good 3D animated or 3D style food. Like, it looked amazing. I know sometimes people talk about like how good food looks in like anime. So I think that they just had to live up to that despite being 3D and not 2D. When Fei Fei and Chin go to the moon, it is like wildly visually stimulating, and it's like borderline a trippy experience. It's not your typical space setting to a certain extent, but if anything, it reminds me of the more recent films like Ralph Breaks the Internet or Inside Out, in the sense that it's like this vast space. You know, we're in space, we're on the moon, and if you think of Ralph Breaks the Internet, if you've seen it, when they go into the internet, you know, it's like a lot of bright colors and like zippy stuff. And then it reminds me of Inside Out when they are in like her brain, right? Where all the memories and the feelings live and stuff like that. And it's just like this abyss and some colors and all sorts of stuff like that. It's very abstract and brightly colored. And for the most part, I feel like they did a really great job with making a distinction of the fact that like we're not on Earth anymore, you know? Regarding character design, one thing I will say is that I'm very, very happy that they didn't stick to the stereotypical bright streak of hair or colored hair that is normally given to Asian girls for some weird reason. Like, I don't know where that came from. I don't know why they do it, but like if you pay attention or go back to not anime again, but like American depictions of Asian girls, they like always got like a colored streak of hair. What is with that? So moving on to the animation style, the film is 3D and there are some moments of traditional hand-drawn 2D animation, and the 2D animation parts are really gentle. I'm probably going to say heartwarming 50 million times in this thing, and I apologize in advance. And I feel like the 2D or traditional part really assist sentimentally with the parts of the story that they were telling at that time. I honestly didn't expect anything less than amazing animation from a film being directed by Glen Keane. Overall, the pacing of the film was fine. Like, I have no complaints. I was gonna say okay, but like okay almost kind of makes me feel like I'm hating on it, and I'm not. I was just satisfied. The storyline, you know, what can you, like, I don't know how to avoid things feeling a little bit obvious, and I just ignore that feeling, and I'm like, okay, well, if I'm already starting to catch hints on how this story may progress, let me just see how they reveal that, and that's what I end up paying a bit more attention to. So I appreciated how the story was being handled and told. I also felt, however, like it was pretty clear when we were in the second act and when we were in the third act. Like, I wish that was a bit of a smoother transition. Also, with animation films, like, grief is not an uncommon theme. You know, it's in so many films, the main character loses a parent or a loved one in some capacity. However, I was really appreciative of how they handle this, and I even found myself getting a little bit choked up at one point. And it was just because I can relate to having lost lost a parent. I think that's the proper conjugation. I was older than the main character when I lost a parent, but I started getting a little choked up thinking about like, how would it have been experiencing what I experienced at a younger age? And then, you know, whatever. So for some of my final thoughts, like I've been saying, this film is sweet. It's heartwarming. It's beautiful to look at. I really enjoyed it. The second act kind of really slowed down for me. And at some points, I felt like it was a lot of noise and commotion, you know, and I don't know. Like I'm trying to think, and I was like, it really felt like you were going like this. Oh, I'm sorry for the listeners, because I'm also recording this visually. So it felt like you were going up first act, you know, as you should be doing. And then the dip in the second act was a bit sharp. Like, you know, it should have been a bit more like a hill, and it was more like a mountain peak dropped to the other side. And then it chugged back up for the third act, and then it plateaued for the end. So, you know, that's probably just my only complaint, air quotes, if you would say that. I really don't remember much of the trailer, but as I have it linked in the episode show notes, so I got you if you want to pause the episode if you didn't already to watch the trailer, so you can kind of have some context for listening to the rest of this. But I wasn't aware that it was going to be a musical. Now, I feel like I straddle the line between loving musicals and like musicals are okay. It kind of depends on the musical, and it's helpful if I go into the experience knowing that it's going to be a musical. This is not the first time I watched an animated film unaware that it was going to be a musical, but when the first song started, I was like, oh. I wasn't really in the mood for a musical, but, you know, for the most part, I really did enjoy most of the songs, and I gonna get to the songs in a moment. Going back, so I feel like I said earlier, this film is a lot like Tangled and Frozen, especially like, you know, those films have songs with it. And I don't like Frozen, which I'll get into in another episode. Like, it's actually on my agenda to watch Frozen 1 and 2 and talk about my feelings and see if my feelings have changed. So I think it's in the same vein and category as Tangled, Frozen. I think it's better than those two, to be honest with you. And it's up there with Moana. There isn't any other races of animated films that have that kind of context, you know, that's such a singy, feminine context with any other races, I feel like, to compare. But yeah, it's better than Tangled, better than Frozen, up there with Moana. Like, I can rewatch Moana, not all the time, but I enjoy Moana songs, and I can see myself watching Over the Moon again, and I would watch both of them in one weekend. Like, why not? So, back to the music. There's a song that I guess is supposed to be like hip hop, again with the air quotes, and I just wish it wasn't there. I honestly feel like if they, and I don't know if they did, because I didn't do my research, but it didn't sound like it to me. But I would just appreciate it if they just leave hip hop rap songs out of stuff that doesn't involve Black characters on screen in animated context. You know, if they don't have Black characters to perform these rap and hip hop musical numbers, just pick a different genre to go with. So what I was going to say is just that it doesn't sound like there were Black people involved with creating the beats or the music and creating the lyrics. So I really did enjoy that. I was like, oh gosh, another hip hop rap beat moment. So please, it just always sounds so cringy to me. Just leave it alone. Anyways, so overall, like I said, I can see myself watching this again, and especially as, you know, eventually global warming would let it be cold in New York at some point. I'm not in a hurry for it, but when it happens, I will be getting in my onesie and I will be watching Over the Moon. And I didn't put this down in my show notes, but there's a small film that I believe was Oscar nominated. Can't confirm if it actually won at the moment, and it's called Over the Moon. No, it's not. Over the Moon is this movie. The short film that I'm talking about was called One Small Step. Now, One Small Step is also about an Asian girl leading character who is into space and rockets and stuff like that. And to not be a spoiler, I just found the parallels, like here are these two, a short film and a feature film, both Asian characters, interested in space and whatever for different reasons, but they also do have that theme of grief too. So I just find it like very interesting. I think One Small Step, if we're in 2020, came out 2018-19, which is around the time when this started. I'm not trying to insinuate that anyone stole anyone's ideas. I'm just saying that it just happens so often. I can't speak to the live action industry, but in animation where like there's just, I don't know what it is. It's like, you know how they have group thought, right? So it's almost like a group thought, but for what the movie is like about or something. Like, why was there was Smallfoot, there was Abominable, and there was another movie, maybe it was called Bigfoot or something like that, with like a dad that has a son that's half human and half Yeti. And all three movies came out within like a 12-month period. And then you remember when there was Happy Feet and like Surf's Up? And there's just always like a cluster of like similar movies. Like there would be like a robots phase or something like that, So anyways, when it gets cold, I'll probably watch this movie again. I'll probably get me some hot chocolate or like something to make me feel like all cozy, put on the onesie, call it a day. So just to, before I close out, I want to talk a little bit about 2 years of Simply Robotics. Whoop, whoop. This year, or, this season, I did have a little bit, 2, I think, episodes that were, 1, that was a bit more personal, which was episode 15, when I was talking about adjusting to being in quarantine. And I was kind of like, I don't know, how am I supposed to function? Blah, 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 blah. And I guess maybe I'll talk about that a little bit too in another episode, just about like how I have been navigating quarantine. An episode I really enjoyed doing this year was episode 12 called Black. And that was just about like Black animated characters and telling Black stories of Black characters, and do the creators of those stories race matters. And like, it's one thing to have Black characters on screen or Black animated characters on screen, but it's another thing to have people driving those stories that are also Black in various places of the production pipeline. I started doing way more movie reviews, right? So that used to be something that I just used to kind of put on my blog, but whatever. Content is content, man. I need content. So movie reviews it is. And, I'm going to I'm going to think of some more interesting things that we could be doing. But I've been getting good feedback of the movie reviews, and it's been dope that based off of what I'm saying in an episode, that someone goes and checks it out, or based on some of the things that I talk about with guests, people go and check out. And speaking of guests, I've had a bunch of guests this year, and that's been really great, from other podcast hosts to just some of my homies just talking about stuff. And I know if you're listening, we already had the conversation about having you on the show and it hasn't happened yet. Like, don't worry about it. I'm just, trying to pace things out in the flow. Like, I realize I kind of have like a lot of guys lined up. So I want to just break that up and have some women in between. And in terms of things that you can expect for season 3, we can expect some more interviews with industry professionals. I've done a lot of work through Diverse Tunes and in some of our virtual programming, and I would absolutely like to have those people on the podcast to talk about, what they do and some of their favorite TV shows and movies as well. And I'm just so excited for an episode that's going to come out in December. Like, I'm so excited about it. Okay. So anywho, I'm also going to have more friends to talk about stuff. Like, one of my friends, and if you're listening, you know who you are, said like one of their favorite shows is Scooby-Doo. And if you were listening to my spooky season episode, which was episode 26, you would know that I was scared of Scooby-Doo. So when I get to the point to record with that friend, it's going to be really funny to just like I don't know much about Scooby-Doo. Great theme song. Don't know much about it other than that. But to get into some announcements, Simple Robotics, the podcast, has a sponsor. So as we, close out 2020 and go into the new year, I will have 5 sponsored episodes by Autodesk. So if you don't know, Autodesk is a software company that provides programs for doing 3D animation in various capacities. So if you're animating, if you're doing texturing, if you're doing modeling, and for those of you who don't work in the industry, I could break all that down one day, maybe, if y'all are interested in learning some of that. Autodesk creates a whole bunch of software for people to do all those various things. So they have an initiative where they are supporting content creators of color, and they are going to be supporting a couple episodes of my show. So I'm excited, and I'm excited to create that content for us and to have their support behind it, because I had to use their stuff when I was in college. I used their stuff to do my personal work. So it's really dope to be supported by them. Also, another announcement, I relaunched my Patreon. So what that means is there's now 3 tiers to being a Patreon and supporting the content that I'm going to be creating. So there's a $3 tier, a $5 tier, and a $10 tier. And I will post a link in the episode show notes. I don't want to really bog down the episode with those type of stuff, but some of the things that you will get in the various tiers can range from, or will range from, the backlog of video podcasts that I've been doing, and all the way up to my vlogs documenting making my short film. I also have a Discord. Whoop, whoop. So Discord I'm just trying to cultivate a communal space for my peers. So if you are a Discord user, I'll have the link to my Discord in the show notes as well, so you can join. And it's just a place for us to kind of just hang out. I think if you're familiar with forums, it's kind of like that in a sense. You can do voice chats, you can do text chats. I use it when I'm live streaming my video games sometimes, so you can join me and we could talk as I play or whatever. We share memes, it's a small but growing community. And I think that's a bunch of the updates I have. So anyways, I want to thank you all for listening. I am so excited to go into season 3 and to do all the things I anticipate doing. So I am so happy and appreciative of the support and everything, and I just look forward to more. So again, you could find me on all social media platforms at Simply Robotics. The website is at simplyrobotics.com, and the hashtag SimplyRoboticsPod. And until next time, bye.